was my embracing of oil paints again. I've been painting with oil since I was about 14, and then I dropped them at Royal College. A lot of the time at Royal College, I wasn't ever given any time to make work. I had to basically have a crit every week and present something. When you're painting something that's kind of, for me, quite epic, that takes a long time. It takes months. Well, for me, it took months. But I was still looking at the social housing aspects, and I was also more readily embracing the print. The reason I use, these are vintage prints, and they are given to me. They're recycled, and they're from charity shops and jumble sales, and they're from the places from the 50s basically, from when these buildings were made. And that was really important. They already had a thread of a history of somebody else's history, and that they could be part of my history, I suppose. But it was also more important as well in terms of the juxtaposition of the femininity and the masculinity and the interior and the exterior, because really as well, so much of the time I see buildings as portraits of people in a point in time and a culture and socio-politics and identity and ideals. And this isn't a cinema, obviously the Coronet. Its new life is going to be a spiritual centre, which is quite nice. Although it's quite controversial for it to be that. I guess as well, I mean, I've got kind of these shows underneath. I was constantly kind of, luckily as well, progressing from being in, I guess, opens and things like that to being invited into things. I had a show at John Jones, and basically I started this sort of series of works for the John Jones show, and I started blogging about it, about my experience of re-embracing oils. And how that felt, and the excitement of it. Next slide, please. Yeah, so it's actually how I met Annabelle, is through my blog, so it's kind of very lucky that I did that. And so many other people, and I went on to write another blog about running an artist-led space, and you can read it, it's on my website. It's all there, and it was very nice because it was a really good journey to kind of really embrace oil paints again, because they're just so wonderful to use. And so I was looking around, I'd gone from the Haygate estate to thinking about what other social housing I could look at, and I do a lot of research into photographs, architectural blogs, general blogs, newspaper articles, and this is the Kidbrooke estate. I went around and photographed these, and generally I always use my own photographs. I go around and photograph faces. This is quite scary, because it's 106 hectares of pretty much desolate land, apart from 26 families that remained in that space, trapped. They bought their houses, in some cases, and weren't able to move out. And so you'd be around this desolate place, and then you come across a really beautifully tended garden, and you'd be like, oh my God. And that kind of conflict of having to be trapped in one space, unable to move forward because of your own ideals of what you could possess. And I find that interesting, I guess tragic at the same time. And I just wandered around this place, completely lost. It's huge. And produced a series of works out of it. And this is going back to the Haygate, so don't end the show. And so, again, this is all towards the John Jones show.
Did I go backwards then? Sorry.
Just take the arrow off this line.
Oh, okay. Apologies. No.
Where is it? Oh, no, okay.
No.
Malfunction. And I went back to the Haygate as well. And this one's called 8,000 Souls Part 2 because 8,000 people lived here at any one time. A huge amount in a very small amount of space. And why basically that kind of fell down, it's now pretty much empty. But although strangely in a nice circularity, there's been an emergence of people using those buildings again and reclaiming them as their own. And yeah, I don't know how much longer that will last. Probably quite a bit longer because Southwark Council earns a lot more money renting that space out for films than they do making housing for people that actually need it. Again, it's political. Yeah, so I mean, the blog kind of ended up in these kind of really nice relationships with people and made me feel connected in a way that I hadn't felt connected to anyone before. I hadn't been part of really an artist community. And so it was the beginning of conversations with people. And this is a lovely piece that's owned by somebody that I got introduced to by Graham as a happenstance. It's wonderful the way those things work. Yeah, and this is also, again, because I basically kind of want to talk about later works, I'm just going to go quite quickly through this, but feel free to ask anything. I did this project with Irina. I was looking at transient communities, the circus community, and how does one do that? I found it really hard to not have a community and to imagine being transient. I didn't even want to travel because I had such a little sense of home that I didn't want to leave what I had. So I sort of was fascinating by those kind of the double-edged aspects of homes and transience, really. And Irina was great because I put together a proposal and was unsuccessful, but we'd been collaborating for a little while at this point, and she said, let's do something with it. And so this show, she read the proposal, she put it in the Roundhouse, and I did a series of paintings from it, for it, and it went on tour for sort of 3 years to Brussels and Barrow, and well, Barrow wasn't very fun, but it was a nice space, but it was pretty grim. Pizza and pasta, literally on a plate every night for like 3 or 4 days. Quite hardcore. But it was an amazing art space. And next slide, please. And what was really great about this project actually is that the other 2 artists in it, Shelley Love, she was a video artist, well, still is a video artist, but my sister had been a producer on the film that she'd made, The Forgotten Circus. It's incredible, look it up on YouTube or on her website. And Michaela Nettle was somebody that I'd thought was the most brilliant artist that I'd seen out of the Royal College in 2006, who I was very lucky to get to know. She has a studio space here now. She's a good friend, and we commissioned her, like together, me and Irina worked on the project, so we commissioned Michaela to make a film, and she made a beautiful film about butterflies. And this again is a really heavily, intensely, you have this in your house. Yeah, it's it took about 6 months and it tore my fingers to shreds. It was, all of that purple bit was embroidery. And yeah, it's just another one of those series. I need somebody to zap. This is the arrow. So this is one of the images of it in Brussels. And it was amazing though, because it was kind of Corbusier style complex, and we were paid to be there, and we were given money every day, and Belgian beer and chocolate every day. And we were surrounded by these theatre people, and went to some amazing performances, and they had some brilliant technical people that lit this, so that it did this amazing stuff that it had never done before. The Roundhouse was kind of a really odd space to navigate. It wasn't at its best really there, and the Roundhouse didn't really appreciate it, but these guys did. And it was fascinating. So there's one of my latex dresses and my earrings from Royal College in an installation I finally wanted them to be part of, not just as earrings. And then there's the butterflies from the original drawings that I did to make that skirt. And there was also, there was a time after I left Royal College where I made these painted art skirts, because paintings won't sell, but painted art skirts were wrong, very wrong.